Khal Drogo promised to win the throne for Daenerys, but he never did. At first, the story seems straightforward. Drogo gets wounded, the wound festers, and everything falls apart. But when you start examining the details, you realize that the story is far more complicated and much more suspicious than it first appears. Today I want to walk you through it. We'll figure out what Mirri Maz Duur's plan really was, and you can be certain of one thing: she had a plan, and it was much more elegant than you might think. I'll use both the show and the books because the books give us a lot more detail, but if you don't remember the books or never read them at all, don't worry. We'll read the crucial parts together. Let's dive in. The first suspicious moment comes when Mirri offers to treat Drogo's wound. Why did she do that? His khalasar has just destroyed her village and her temple. Mirri herself is abused before Daenerys arrives, and now she is a slave, facing a terrible future of being sold and abused again. So why the hell would she help him? The official reason is,
all men are of one flock, so my people believe. Lamb or lion, his wound must be washed and sewn.
Come on, seriously? Even St. Augustine would struggle with that level of forgiveness. Even Daenerys finds this strange. In the books, she asks, "Why should you want to help my Khal?" At this point, there are two obvious explanations. First, she wants to make herself useful in order to survive. Second, she wants revenge and needs an access. So which one is correct? Keep that question in mind. Anyway, Mirri begins treating Drogo's wounds. In the show, he has only the chest wound, but in the books, he also has an arrow in his arm. Mirri removes the arrow. She disinfects the wounds. She stitches the chest wound. Everything so far makes medical sense. Afterward, she applies a poultice made of leaves and ointments. This may seem strange to modern viewers, but historically, it was perfectly normal. Many plants do have antiseptic properties, so using herbs on a wound is not suspicious by itself. Of course, it is not a perfect remedy. But unfortunately, Maester Fleming had not yet been born in Essos. So if Mirri planned to sabotage it, this probably wasn't here. After the treatment, she gives very clear instructions. Let's read them. "Keep the lambskin in place for 10 days and 10 nights, she said. There will be fever and itching. Drink neither wine nor the milk of the poppy. I am Khal," Drogo said. "I spit on pain and drink what I like." As we know, Drogo does exactly as he says. He ignores all her instructions. He rips off the bandage and replaces it with one from his own healers. So is Khal Drogo responsible for his own downfall? Yes, but also maybe not. We'll get back to that. After Drogo ignores the instructions, the wound festers. When he collapses and falls off his horse, Daenerys sends for Mirri again. Her conclusion is not promising.
He's beyond the healer's skills. All I can do is ease his path.
Up to this moment, the story still seems like a tragic but ordinary chain of events. But now, the grim stuff begins. If you like our little investigation so far, please like and subscribe. Thank you.
You must know a way. Some magic.
There is a spell. Some would say death is cleaner.
Look at the way she watches Daenerys. She waits for her decision. And she clearly cares about what Daenerys will say. Why? Was this her plan from the start? And Daenerys makes a decision.
Do it. Save him.
There is a price.
You have gold, whatever you want.
It's not a matter of gold. This is blood magic. Only death pays for life.
And only death may pay for life.
Wait. Let's stop right there. How can a woman who normally deals with herbs know Melisandre-level blood spells? But Mirri is not an ordinary healer. Far from it, actually. For a common village healer, she is, so to speak,
Extremely overqualified.
when she first meets Daenerys in the books, she tells her about her expertise. I went in caravan to Asshai to learn from their mages. I lingered long to study the healing ways of distant people. A moon singer gifted me with her birthing songs. A woman of your own riding people taught me the magics of grass and corn and horse. And a maester from the Sunset Lands opened a body for me and showed me all the secrets that hide beneath the skin. Later, before the ritual, she reveals that she also learned blood magic. I learned the way and paid dear for the lesson. My teacher was a blood mage from the Shadowlands. So she learned from a moon singer, from a maester, And even from a blood mage. Pretty impressive resume, wouldn't you say? She doesn't exactly seem like a village herbalist anymore.
I'm a sorceress, not a village herbalist.
So there is a price for saving Drogo, someone's death. Daenerys asks the most logical question.
My death.
No, not your death, Khaleesi.
Just look at Mirri. There is such open triumph on her face that Daenerys would probably notice it if she weren't completely devastated by what's happening. And see what Mirri does next. That's actually Littlefinger-level manipulation.
Bring me his horse.
Mirri says it won't be Dany's life. Then she asks for Drogo's horse. But notice that she never says the horse is the price. That's what Dany assumes herself. Mirri doesn't need to lie. She simply lets Daenerys reach the wrong conclusion. Did Mirri deliberately mislead her? Let's see what happens next.
You must go also, lady. Once I begin to sing, no one must enter the tent. The dead will dance here tonight.
She is very clear. No one must enter, but someone does. When Mirri begins the ritual, Daenerys goes into labor. Jorah searches for midwives, but none will help.
They will not come. This issue is cursed.
Someone says Mirri can deliver the baby. She is quite busy at the moment. But Jorah doesn't care, so he carries Daenerys into the tent, the one place no living person was supposed to enter. Did Jorah ruin the ritual? He certainly thinks he did, but actually, probably not, because what happens afterward suggests something else entirely. And now we're getting very close to the truth. Daenerys wakes up just to know that
The boy did not live.
and Mirri appears. Yes, she is still there, and she seems more than happy to provide Daenerys with the details.
He was scaled like a lizard, blind, with leather wings like the wings of a bat.
And look at her face. She's almost mocking Daenerys.
When I touched him, the skin fell from his bones. Inside, he was full of grave worms.
She certainly doesn't seem devastated by the outcome. She doesn't sound like someone who wanted to help and failed. But that's not the only surprise for Mirri.
Show him to me.
As you command, lady. He lives. You asked for life. You paid for life.
Remember the horse? Mirri never actually said that was the price. And now Daenerys' child is dead.
This is not life. When will he be as he was?
And here Mirri doesn't even try to hide her triumph.
When the sun rises in the west, sets in the east. When the seas go dry, when the mountains blow in the wind, like leaves.
In other words, never. But their final conversation tells us even more.
You knew what I was buying, and you knew the price.
It was wrong of them to burn my temple. It angered the great shepherd.
So now we know her real motive. Revenge. But there is something more. She knew the prophecy about Daenerys' son, and apparently decided to take care of that problem too.
My child was innocent.
Innocent. He would have been the stallion who mounts the world. Now he will burn no cities. Now his Khalasar will trample no nations into dust.
Daenerys genuinely doesn't understand why Mirri did this to her. From Daenerys' perspective, she saved Mirri.
I spoke for you. I saved you.
And she really did. But from Mirri's perspective, the story looks very different.
3 of those riders had already raped me before you saved me, girl. I saw my god's house burn.
She lost all her life. She saw the Dothraki killing her friends and destroying her temple. Everything that was dear to her is gone.
So, tell me again exactly what it was that you saved.
Your life.
And that's the part Daenerys doesn't fully see yet. Mirri's village wasn't destroyed for no reason.
Gold to hire ships, princess. Ships to sail to Westeros.
The Dothraki were raiding and taking slaves to finance the war Daenerys wanted. She saved her life, but...
Why don't you take a look at your Khal? Then you will see exactly what life is worth when all the rest has gone.
And here is another detail. Mirri doesn't even try to save herself. When Daenerys wakes up, almost everyone is gone. Mirri has every reason to run too. She knows she'll have to answer for what happened, but she stays. She didn't just want to kill Drogo. She wanted Daenerys to understand what her ambitions looked like to the people who had to pay for them. How many people would have to lose everything and be left exactly like Drogo, alive, but with nothing left? so Daenerys could sit on the Iron Throne? So now that we know Mirri wanted revenge, how did she pull this off? Was she after Drogo, or the child, or both? Because at first glance, the whole plan seems almost impossibly complicated. If what happened is the outcome she expected, she must have been sure that Drogo wouldn't follow her instructions, his wound would fester, he would end up close to death. Daenerys would try every possible means to save him and agree to the ritual. Dany would go into labor, and Jorah would bring her into the tent. Doesn't that require way too many random events to come together perfectly? Actually, no. And for someone like Mirri, it wasn't even that complicated. And that's what makes the plan even more brilliant. She doesn't need everything to play out exactly this way. As for Drogo's treatment, everything she did looked convincing, but Mirri had every reason to suspect that Drogo wouldn't follow her instructions. As we mentioned earlier, Drogo had no respect for Mirri's medicine. With her knowledge, it would not have been hard to ensure a slow infection and make the bandage as uncomfortable as possible, so Drogo would rip it off himself, and she could always say that he was to blame. So getting Drogo close to death was something she could absolutely arrange. Next, she saw that Daenerys loved him and cared for him. She also saw that Daenerys was pregnant, and unlike Daenerys, Mirri knew the Dothraki customs. She knew that when the Khal died, Dany would lose everything and be taken to Vice Dothrak. The Khal was her shield and her protection, so it was obvious that Daenerys would try to use anything to save him. And here Mirri gets carte blanche for her ritual, which kills two birds with one stone, the Khal himself and his son. A perfect revenge. And as for Jorah entering the tent, most likely it changes nothing. If the child was the real price from the beginning, he was going to die anyway. But what if, by some miracle, Drogo actually followed the instructions? Then Mirri earns Daenerys' trust, stays close to her, and waits for another opportunity. And what if Daenerys refuses the ritual? And then what? Accept Drogo's death and lose everything? Or take one last chance to save him? Mirri can make a very good guess which one Daenerys will choose. So Mirri doesn't need to predict everything that happens next. She only needs one thing to set the plan in motion: Drogo, close to death. And with her knowledge, she can arrange that. But in destroying the Khal and the child who was meant to conquer the world, Mirri unknowingly helped create something even more powerful: the Mother of Dragons. What do you think? Was Mirri justified? Did she have a right to do what she did? And did her revenge create an even greater tragedy? Tell me in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe.